Good morning. Good morning and welcome to Gunner Shot. Gunner Shot में आप सबका स्वागत है. Today we're going to talk about the Pakistan Army, the savior and destroyer of Pakistan. Well, this is not anything to do immediately with the current state of affairs. The current state of affairs and everything is well known. And what we're going to talk of is largely what is the reality of Pakistan, maybe a bit of history, and the contemporary reality of Pakistan Army, which we often tend to forget. When we talk of Pakistan, most of us are very emotional. In this emotion, we forget there is a harsh reality which we have to encounter. And that is something which has led us to make mistakes, and a whole lot of mistakes in the recent past. That is why I thought I will do this all over again. It's a little bit of repetition with new inputs. We have to understand the new dynamic. We all know what happened at Sharm el Sheikh. We all know that Shahbaz Sharif went and literally sucked up to Trump. We all know that the problem between Afghan army and Pakistan army and the border is on fire. And we all know that TLP is still, smarting for what's happened. And there's something very serious happening in Punjab. We'll get to all that in due course. But we have to understand the fundamentals of the Pakistan army. That's the more important. Right. Before I go, I would like to tell you for some reason the internet in my area has failed and I am on hotspot mobile. So if something is not very great, pardon me. And here we go. We'll talk of Pakistan army, the savior and the destroyer. It comes from this, the Janus role of Pakistan armed forces. What is Janus? The two-headed person on the same body. Right? This is the classic one, which I converted into this, with, of course, Asim Munir being the representative of the Pakistan army, who is also saving Pakistan, right, and destroying it. As a destroyer, they have bankrupted the nation. The Pakistan army has bankrupted the nation to the point of no return. We have to understand this very clearly. There's no return from where their bankruptcy exists. What is going ahead is even worse. We'll come to that. And then, of course, as the savior, it's the only entity in Pakistan which can save Pakistan from a breakup. And this is something which we have to understand. So the people have no option but to go back to Pakistan's army, and the army has no option but to keep destroying Pakistan. And this is continuing. Are we at a stage where the destroyer is overpowering the savior? The day that happens, Pakistan will break up. Whether India likes it or not. Whether India strives for it or not. So let's go into some of these details. Hamid Gul, who was their spy master, he died 3-4 years back. Right? He was the guy who created the Taliban in the first go with Ziaul Haq. He was their chief of ISI. He had written, when history is written, it will be stated that the ISI defeated the Soviet Union in Afghanistan with the help of America. Okay, there will be another sentence. He says the ISI with the help of America defeated America. This is his statement. I just added something else to it. The unwritten sentence, the unwritten logic in this is the ISI with the help of ISI is now defeating Pakistan. Right? This is my firm conviction. Yes, ISI and America got together, defeated the Soviet Union. Right? ISI and one part of America defeated the American armed forces. Now that both the Soviet Union and America have gone away from this stage, ISI with its own help is defeating Pakistan. That's the reality which we have to understand. And the question here comes, should we interfere in that? Or how do you push it along? These are the two questions which India has to answer. And in either case, the thing is, how do you do it? We'll evolve this as we go along. Okay, the first thing, you have to understand what Stephen Cohen said long back. He said there are armies which guard their nation's borders. There are armies which are concerned with protecting their own position in society in most dictatorships. Of course, the armies which guard the nations are the normal armies like Indian Army. There are armies which defend a cause or an idea. Right? Like the PLA, it defends the cause, the CCP. It defends an ideology. Right? Pakistan Army does all three. That's why it is able to get along with anyone. Because depending on whom they're dealing with, they'll put on that face. But there's a reality beyond it. The reality is this. This is the only army which deliberately destroys its own nation. It has destroyed its institutions. It's destroyed its agriculture, its economy, and everything. Its people. So, we have to understand this, that it has got a fourth role. Beyond what Stephen Cohen said long back. Then there's this Indian obsession with the Pakistan army. The Indian obsession is that struggle with India is always existential. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose. Not winning repeatedly is not the same as losing. It doesn't matter. Loss or win is not an issue. And then we need to remember, I think this is something which somewhere our planners, political, military forgot, that Pakistan will always prefer to take a calculated risk and lose than do nothing. Because if they don't mind a loss, but if they are seen to be doing nothing, they fall. And that is why Op Sindoor, no matter how many airfields you destroy, how many terrorist addas you destroy, how many weapons of theirs you destroy, the fact that they took a calculated risk and spun a narrative of destroying 7 aircraft and spread it worldwide, magnified, amplified by America and China, showed to the people of Pakistan that they did something. Very important, this. And that too against India. And the Pakistan army believes it is not worth presiding over a state which gives concessions to India. And hence, they will never be at peace with India. They will never sue for peace with India. There is no way that peace talks with Pakistan will succeed. Talks with Pakistan is an alternate way of continuing this struggle. And victory is the ability to continue fighting, not winning. And that is what Pakistan is doing today. They are continuing to fight. And that is something which we have to understand very clearly. Doesn't matter who wins. Step back, going back a little into history. You need to understand the governance model of Pakistan. Because steeped in this governance model of Pakistan is the fact that this ideology is seeped or put its roots in. When you go back to their independence in 1947, From there till 1954, they had 7 years of civilian rule. I call it the suited rule. People in suits ruled Pakistan. 7 years. 1954, Ayub Khan became the defense minister. Can you imagine the chief of army staff being the defense minister of the nation? And that was when the character of Pakistan started changing. From there to the time Musharraf was deposed in 2008, they had the booted rule. 54 years. Okay? 54 years of military governments. Of course, in between, Bhutto came, but Bhutto was also the chief martial law administrator. It was under martial law. In between, others came. They were all. So somewhere, you know, Ayub Khan took over in a coup and declared martial law in 1958. From 58 to 2008, 50 years, plus of course the 4 years when Ayub Khan was the defense minister, and he virtually took over everything. Backstreet driving. 54 years of the booted government, the suited and the booted. And then now, this is the period, ever since Musharraf was deposed in 2008 till now. It's not till date 24, it is 25, my mistake. 16 years, 17 years. Civilians have been voted out of power at the behest of the army to form a hybrid government. This government is the most suited for Pakistan. The Pakistan army finds this governance model as the best. The suited government is not useful. The booted government is not practical, because whenever they were in the booted governments, the blame of any misfortune on Pakistan was being put on the military rulers and the Pakistan army. But this hybrid form of government, where the civilian is voted out of power at the behest of the army, is best suited for them. Because there's a government which is supposed to deliver to the people, and there's the army which actually controls everything and is not responsible for the people. The best model. I don't think there's any other country in the world which can have an equivalent. This is the Pakistan we are dealing with. Understand this. Barring the first 7 years of a civilian government, thereafter, this has been a completely booted government. As a result, there is a center of power, which is the army, and there is the center of governance is the state. There are two centers in Pakistan. And this understanding is important. There is a center of governance and there is a center of power. Whom do we deal with? And that has been the question mark in the Indian polity. Right? Progressively, the army and the center of power, has taken over the state. And the center of governance is firmly under the center of power. But they remain separated. And this is something which we have not factored in. In fact, we have actually neglected this important aspect. Successive wars have destroyed the center of governance. They've destroyed the state. But with every defeat, or at every war, the armed forces have been strengthened. And this is something I keep telling every day. Every time I talk about Pakistan, I keep saying the center of power has never been destroyed in Pakistan. And the question before us is, how do you degrade or destroy the center of power to make Pakistan a normal nation? That's the $1,000,000 question. For that, we need to understand even more. You need to understand the power triangle which exists in Pakistan and how this power triangle has now been subverted. Let me explain. The power triangle consists of the army, the elites, the political parties, and the judiciary. Historically, it is this balance or these three elements or entities or establishments who form the power triangle. When I say the elites, these are the three major parties: PPP, PML, and PTI. And the elites of Pakistan, 30 odd, 40, 50 families of Pakistan, are part of one of these. The equation in Pakistan has always been like this: the army and the judiciary, throughout the history of Pakistan, right, have got hold of one party with it. It needs one party to defeat the other two parties and keep it out of power or keep it under the thumb. The army has at times coerced the judiciary, at times the judiciary has come to it on its own. It needed one. At one point of time, it was PTI. Today, it is PML and PPP, and the PTI is out. At one point of time, there were no three parties. There were only two parties, PPP and PML. So the army and the judiciary ensured that one of the parties was related to keep the other out. A variation of this has been that the army has kept one of the parties, strengthened it, and kept the judiciary and the other party out. These equations of P1, P2, P3, judiciary and the army need to be understood. Okay. Historically, the judiciary, the P1, P2, and P3, the three parties, if they have got together, they have always been greater than the army. And this was proven when Musharraf was deposed in 2008. The judiciary stood up. The judges rebelled, took to the streets. Right? And when they took to the street, all three parties swung to the side of the judiciary. And at that time, the army was thrown out. Today, the army has pocketed the judiciary. Recently, there were amendments to the constitution. As per the amendments to the constitution, the judiciary has no role but to support the army. It is emasculated. P1 and P2, that is two parties, PPP and PML, have been pocketed by the armed forces. And the only party which matters, PTI, Imran Khan is in jail. So the army is sitting pretty. There's a danger. And the danger is TLP. It is this TLP which has come out, the power on the street. And if any element of the judiciary and any element of one of these major parties align with it, they can overthrow the army. And is there a condition today for this? There is a chance. The reports which are coming out of Pakistan suggest that the leadership of TLP is under the pump. There's a huge operation going on in Muridke and Lahore and Islamabad to exterminate TLP. But we'll discuss this as we go along. TLP is an ideology. I don't know whether the Pakistan army can kill this ideology. Yesterday we spoke about the TLP. The TLP is a radical ideology. It has gone the way it wants. Today, that radical ideology, that radical internal ideology has gone against the government. We don't know how this will go, but we will watch it. But hereafter, the army is on notice. The danger or the problem in this whole construct is today the army is as ideological as the TLP. Will the ideology in uniform overpower the ideology on the street? Is a question mark. But this power triangle has been disturbed in the past 5-6 days. And we'll have to see how it goes. There are huge media narratives. There's cognitive warfare going on. And the Pakistan army is a master at it. And it has used its own system, the Chinese system, and the American system to take forward its media narratives. Narrative building through ISPR and media, print, electronics, social media, they're all very important for Pakistan and they've been aces at it. We have to understand our enemy's military strength does not come with the weapons it has or the ability to wage a war. This is the strength of Pakistan army. And if you want to defeat the Pakistan army, you have to defeat this first. Because cognitive warfare shapes the control the enemy's shapes and controls the enemy's cognitive thinking and decision making. Definitely, if you look at Op Sindoor, the way it was done, the Pahalgam attack, and the build up thereafter, and everything, it has shaped India's thinking to react without understanding what is happening. I mean, we have to understand. We won the war, but lost the narrative. Their aim is to transform the basic elements and basic beliefs and understanding of the enemy to conform to their will. They've achieved it. Not our will. US. US was supposed to be their enemy before Op Sindoor. But they changed that belief and understanding. To the extent that yesterday Trump was talking of my favorite field marshal. They shape what people think, how they think, and how they behave. Today, Pakistan, everyone is eating out of Pakistan's hands. China, USA, of course, and others in the West. Right? Their idea has been shaped. You are looking at a weapon of war. They have the capability and they aim to fragment relationships and alliances. That is going on between Saudi Arabia and India. They want to break that relationship and alliance with Saudi Arabia and the Western and the Muslim world. And they want everyone to willingly conform to their will. This whole story is going on and we need to understand this. I wrote this before, much before Op Sindoor, sometime last year. And I didn't have a reason to change even one word of it. The attack of the next generation war will come as a surprise. If we do not prepare for it, we will lose. The lack of knowledge is like suicide. Important. We also have to understand that in the war of ideas between the Pakistan army and the TLP, the Pakistan army's ideological frontier, which I spoke of earlier, is very deep rooted. You have to go into the history to understand this. As much as TLP and LET and all these have come up, there is something more deep rooted in Pakistan we have to understand, which is within the establishment. Because way back in 1949, March 1949, there was an objectives resolution passed in the parliament or in their assembly, call it whatever, where it was declared officially that sovereignty belonged to Allah. Pakistan's sovereignty belonged to Allah. It didn't belong to any constitution, man, people. It belonged to Allah. That was when Pakistan became an Islamic state. In 1973, when Zia-ul-Haq changed the constitution, everyone thinks the constitution of Pakistan was changed in 1973. Sorry, it started with the objectives resolution. Islam as the state religion was incorporated formally. In 1979, the Quranic concept of war came up. And in the Quranic concept of war, which came out by Malik, we'll talk of it a little more. As per that, this is not a theory of war by man. It is theory of war by God. So they're fighting God's war. Please understand the ideological moorings of Pakistan army. As much as it's fighting against the TLP and all that today. And at that time, Zia emerged as God's appointee. Today, Asim Munir is emerging as God's appointee. He declared himself a Hafiz. Way back, Zia enlarged the role of the armed forces from guarding territorial to ideological frontiers. I told you the three frontiers. He was the one who said the sovereignty of the nation is not important, the ideological frontier is more important. Asim Munir is reinforcing that belief. In fact, for him, it is the ideological frontier which is more important than anything else. The territorial thing is irrelevant. Ideology. And hybrid form of fighting is the new jihad. So, hybrid. Are we thinking hybrid or are we thinking conventional? The answer is we are not thinking hybrid. We don't even know what hybrid is. Everyone still looks at, do you have an engine for Tejas? You don't need an engine for Tejas to defeat this Pakistan. Okay. What is the Quranic concept of war? Now let me digress a bit. This is God's war fighting principles and commandments which have been revealed in a book by Malik. Now, let me read out. As per Malik, the Quran is the revealed word of God as spoken through his chosen prophet Muhammad. It starts from there. It places war fighting doctrine and its theory in a much different category than Western thinkers are accustomed to. Because it's not a theory of war derived by man but by God. So this is God's theory of war. So they are not fighting normal war, they're fighting God's war. And just war or jihad is just war, is inherently spiritual warfare. religious warfare to strike terror into the hearts of Islam's enemies. So terror is a fundamental, currency to take jihad forward. This terror is both physical and a cosmic struggle for the reign of Allah's will on the earth between the forces of God, Darul Islam, and that of Darul Harab, and those who dwell in ignorance and darkness of the true knowledge of God. This is a lift from that book. Today, Pakistan is having, a conflict between two jihads of their own variety. Which jihad will work? We don't know. But can you help it along? You can. Provided you are prepared to do the hybrid. Now, as per Zia, all Muslims play a role in jihad. Jihad in terms of warfare is a collective responsibility of the Muslim Ummah. And this fellow Asim Munir is just trying to do that. And is not restricted to soldiers. It's everyone. They talk of the citizen soldier as a soldier of God. The general Zia concept of Islamic military professionalism requires godly character. Zia endorses Malik's thesis as the only pattern of war or approach to war that an Islamic state may wage. This fellow is reinventing the whole thing, Asim Munir. That is why when you see him address troops, he always comes with quote from the Quran, and that too in Arabic. Why in Arabic? Because he wants to get the Ummah behind him. What is their op strategy? What is the op strategy of Pakistan? Have you understood that? Any intervention in India keeps the conflict going free of cost. That's what they did at Pahalgam. They intervened in Pahalgam, and the conflict is continuing. No one was bothering about Pakistan before Pahalgam. It doesn't cost them anything. Combining nuclear, conventional, and proxy capacity ensures that India cannot afford the price of retaliation. They're still doing it. They still say we will change the geography of India. Why? How? Through nuclear weapons. It forces India to live with terrorism and insurgency, since any retaliation involves crossing Pakistan Army's nuclear red lines. You can keep shouting 100 times you crossed all nuclear red lines against Pakistan during Op Sindoor. But you still have to live with terrorism and insurgency, because that will not stop. And that is why that fellow says we'll start from the east. That is why they are believing that they have to improve their relationship with Bangladesh. They will fall at the feet of Bangladesh to ensure that jihad starts from there. A major issue which we have to understand: Pakistan may be poor, but Pakistani armed forces are not poor. They are kept well trained and well equipped. We have forgotten this. They always avoid war, but will continue the conflict. The conflict doesn't stop, but they'll continue to avoid war. And if war takes place, they will win. They'll spin victory out of defeat. We also have to understand there are two Pakistanis, or there are two Pakistans. There is a Pakistan of the army, the center of power, which I explained earlier. It preys on its people. It eats up the people. There is a Pakistan of the people, which seeks protection from the army, the Janus phase. Now the thing is, both these are psyched by India, and they feed on each other. Any military defeat reinforces each other's interdependence. Think something how we have not understood this. Why am I talking this today? Because for the first time I see this interdependence might break with TLP. Are we prepared to break that interdependence? Because their biggest problem and their biggest weakness is their political actors. And we need to understand you need to defeat Pakistan politically. And here you have weak politics who have succumbed to the army, who don't count anymore in the eyes of the people. You have a popular leader in jail who's against the army. You have a political party which is radical and has now gone against the army. There's a schism in Pakistan. And Pakistan army is trying to cover this schism through coercion and force. Can it fail? It will not fail if it is allowed to succeed. And this is where we have to do something. There's another belief system. There's a belief system in Pakistan that Pakistan, in fact, is actually fixated with the idea that India plots to break up Pakistan along ethnic lines. And many of us feed into this belief. Right? We all feed the belief that Pakistan is an unnatural state which will break along, Baluch, Pashtuns, Punjabis, Sindhis, Gilgitis, Kashmiris. So we are reinforcing their thinking. And they also believe that that Afghanistan will be the launch pad for anti-government insurgencies in Pakistan's Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. It will come from there. And people on the India border have bifurcated them, not from each other, but along the Afghanistan border. We have bifurcated them. So this is the belief system which we have to understand. There is yet another belief system which is a little different, but the last point. The people of India and the people of Pakistan are now stand bifurcated. We have no connection with each other ideologically, religiously. We are Hindus. The Punjabis, heartland Punjab of East Punjab and West Punjab are no more the same. But in the West, they're not yet bifurcated ideologically. They're not bifurcated ethnically. There is a jointness at the hip between Pakistan and Afghanistan. And they believe that we are trying to bifurcate that. There is a paradox with Pakistan, which we need to understand. Pakistan sees India as an existential threat, whereas its existential threat comes from Afghanistan. Because of the fact that along either side of the Durand line, there is a problem of ethnicity, similarity of ethnicity. And the people either side of the Durand line don't consider that as a border. And especially now, it's not only in Balochistan, it's also in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The second paradox, which is very important, Pakistan as a state has never consolidated itself internally. It has always sought external orientation. It has always sought to be a big actor globally, but never tried to gain strength internally. These two paradoxes will kill Pakistan if we act politically. The third factor which has come of late, and this is something which we need to understand, is Pakistan has slowly ceded control to external actors. It has lost its sovereignty and independence. It started with the CPEC. Now the Americans are coming in. The Arabs have come in. The UAV people have come in, and Pakistan is no more independent or sovereign. It has been eroded at places. It has been eroded in its institutions. So these are the paradoxes and the fault lines of Pakistan, which we have to understand. There's an internal view. You have to understand this. This is the schism in Pakistan. They feel that TTP is a terrorist group directly confronting the state. And this is the army view. They also view today the TLP is an adversary of the state and its society in disguise. So there's an ideological fracture here. Both these, the TTP and the TLP, cannot be appeased, they cannot be accommodated. They have to be eradicated. They have to eliminate the threat through coercive means, whatever the cost. And because of the extreme positions Pakistan has taken internally in its own society, it has destroyed the middle ground. There's no middle ground for accommodation. Because many of the people who could dominate the middle ground are out of the country. There's no middle ground left. As a result, they can never reconcile. Pakistan can never reconcile with either the Baluch people or the TTP or the TLP. There's no accommodation, there's no political reconciliation. If that is not there, they have to fracture. And the one thing which will keep this fracture alive is water. Water will not allow Pakistan to unite. Because Pakistan has started having water wars within. Just think, what are the importance of farmers to a nation? In USA, take the case of USA. USA is going to almost to war with China because the soya beans from USA are not being bought by China. Why? Because Trump is being forced to do that because the farmers of USA are at stake. The rural areas of USA are calling for this. The same problem in India. You've seen the farmers, protest. All that. This is a very important contingent which will decide the fate of a nation. And it will do so in Pakistan even more. After all, their economy is agri-based economy. Nearly 20% of its GDP is still from agriculture, but nearly 70% of the population is dependent on agriculture. And 40% of the labor force is in agriculture. The employment and the livelihood comes from agriculture. And this is getting divided. And this will fuel the paradoxes. This will fuel the fault lines of Pakistan. We need to understand this. So actually, the Indus Water Treaty is a terrific way of sorting Pakistan out. But we go more for Op Sindoor too. Is that the way to go forward? You need to have strategic patience to deal with Pakistan. My last slide. Pakistan armed forces are the most professional armed forces never to have won a war. Pakistan has lost every war it has fought. Remember what I've told you right through. Pakistan can lose, but the army and the state will always be victorious. With every war, the armed forces have become stronger. Pakistan armed forces cannot be defeated by war. They can be defeated only politically. Article 370 abrogation proved that. There's my theory. And it's right. If political defeat of Pakistan cannot be engineered, don't give it battle. I said this before Op Sindoor. You need to defeat it politically. And to defeat Pakistan politically, you need media. The real question before us is, how can India engineer the political defeat of Pakistan army? Not Pakistan state. Can you engineer the political defeat of Pakistan army? Why am I talking this? Because at this point of time, that is on the horizon. At this point of time, the political defeat of the Pakistan army is feasible, provided we play our cards well. The day the political defeat of Pakistan army takes place, Pakistan will be a normal nation. Or will not be as lethal as. We don't want a military defeat, political defeat. I leave this. There are a lot of things. We'll keep discussing this.